Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
I used to measure weeks by overtime. Monday through Friday at the warehouse, Saturday nights bouncing at McKenna's on Route 33, Sunday mornings fixing what broke in between. I wasn't chasing a boat or a base cabin, was covering tuition for my wife's little brother and keeping her parents afloat after a medical debt spiral turned their mailbox into a threat dispenser. You do what family needs. That's how I was raised in central Ohio, where a handshake still means something and most problems can be fixed if you show up on time with the right tools. I'm 37. The name's John. If you passed me at the grocery store, you wouldn't look twice, would he? Work boots. The face of a man who slept in his truck more than he'd admit. I worked 2 jobs because one job never seemed to cover the miles. The warehouse is steady forklifts, pallets, scanning guns that beep like an IQ. Nights, I bound side checks, defusing 2 a.m. Heroics, walking people to Ubers, so they don't make decisions their morning self can't afford. It's not glamorous, but it keeps the lights on and someone else's dreams alive. When Emily and I married, she was 27 and wild in the good way laugh that filled a room. Hair that never sat the way it was told. She taught yoga, posted quotes about balance and freedom, and cried at Disney movies. I loved that she felt everything. I thought if I handled the weight, the rest would float. We had our daughter, Lily, 2 years later. 7 pounds, lungs like a starter pistol. The first time I held her, the world went quiet, not silent, exactly more like a hum under everything that made sense. I counted 10 fingers, 10 toes, and swore on all of it, I'd carry whatever I had to. The carrying started early. Emily's mom had a stroke the Christmas Lily turned 1. Deductibles don't care what day it is. Her dad is a good man who never learned to say no to overtime or store credit. When the bills stacked up, I called my folks for advice and then kept my mouth shut about the rest. We tightened our belt. I took more shifts. We paid the past due notices before the lights flickered. Emily's brother, Tyler, had just been accepted to Ohio State. Hey, so close, John, Emily said. Hand on my arm, voice like a plea. He just needs a runway. I said we'd find it. Because that's what I do. Find ways where roads say dead end. We bought the small stuff second-hand stroller from Facebook Marketplace, crib from my cousin. The house we rented had a fenced yard with a gate that screamed when you opened it and a maple tree that dumped 1 million leaves in October. The landlord was a retired teacher who fixed things himself and brought us tomatoes in summer. It wasn't a show home. It was ours. The first time the word boring appeared, Lily had just turned 3. Emily was on the phone with her sister, Megan, in the kitchen. I was at the table with a notebook, lining out hours and bills like a battlefield map. I don't know, Meg, Emily said, voice low but not low enough. It's like living with a human calendar. He's a good dad, he is. But there's no spark. It's always schedules, always money talk. She laughed, a little too brightly. Maybe I'm just not built for practical. I stared at the page until the numbers blurred, then drew a tiny square around rent and filled it in. I didn't go in there and ask what she meant. I did what men in my family do. I added another shift. It wasn't all heavy. Emily and I had real seasons of fun cheap movie nights. Backyard s'mores with Lily's face lit orange. Road trips to Hocking Hills when gas was under $3. Shed dance in the kitchen to old pop songs while I rinsed dishes, Lily on her hip, a plastic tiara in her hair. We were a family. If you'd asked me then what we were missing, I would have said sleep. The neighbor moved in a spring later. His name was Declan. He introduced himself in a grey t-shirt and a grin that assumed permission. Early 30s. Tech money or something that borrowed the look. He rented the corner house with the big deck and bought an outdoor sound system on day 2. The first party was a Friday, string lights tossed over the pergola, coolers like open mouths, bass thudding like a chest jaw trying to start. I went over at midnight with a polite face and asked if they could turn it down. He clapped my shoulder and said, "Absolutely, man," then turned it up after I left. The host sent a letter no one read. It became the sound of weekends, whoops, laughter, and that chemical smell some people pretend is herbal. Emily thought the music was fun. She'd sit on the back steps and listen after Lily was down. Remember being 22? She'd say, smiling into the dark. I did. I remembered being broke and happy because broke had an end date. I remembered believing fun didn't come with a bill. She started talking to Declan over the fence potluck suggestions. Neighborhood watch things. Nothing that pinged my radar beyond the fact that he remembered to laugh at her jokes longer than the punchline earned. He invited folks over a lot. And Emily, who loves a crowd the way some people love quiet, gravitated. I went when I could, stood with her on the edges, soda in hand, because I had a shift at midnight and I don't drink when I work. He had that host energy. Everyone felt seen in a way that rarely scans as performance until later. His friends were slick as watches that cost more than our cars, shoes that never find mud. I shook hands, learned names, kept my jaw unclenched. Emily glowed like a lamp fed too much voltage. I told myself it was fine. Adult friendships, a messy geometry, lines intersecting, circles overlapping, the kind of Venn diagram that gives your brain a cramp. I wasn't jealous. I was uneased. That's different. Jealousy is fear of losing. Unease is the sense the floor has a new squeak and you can't find the nail. Tyler's sophomore year came with a book list that could be in flight numbers. I sent the tuition top-up with a note, proud of you. Don't waste this. Emily kissed me and cried, calling me the best man she knew. That sentence should be solder, right? Binding. It felt like helium, pretty and gone fast. Megan started coming by more, arms crossed like armor, eyes that read every room 4 edges. She and Emily have a way of talking that's more duet than dialogue. I just want you to be happy, Megan would say, loud enough for me to hear. You're allowed to want more. Emily would nod and not look at me. I get it. Sisters are where you go to put a name to the ache. But sometimes I felt like a suspect in my own kitchen. My folks noticed the tired around my eyes before I did. You look beat, Johnny, Dad said one Sunday over pot roast. Mom packed leftovers like a mission, metal tins clacking like a train. When I told them what we were covering Tyler, the in-laws Bill's dad just nodded and said the thing he always says when there's a hill ahead, well, get up it. There's a we in our family that stretches like bungee and never snaps. The pattern shifted in tiny ways first. Emily stopped texting back during my late shifts. She'd say her phone died. Her workout stretched to 2 hours. She came home with that smell of someone else's deck on her clothes. And then there were the parties I skipped because I'd been on my feet 12 hours and didn't want to stand under lights pretending the drum in my chest was joy. One Saturday afternoon, Lily had a play date 2 houses down with the Martins girl, Ava. The moms had met at the park. The kids built a universe out of sidewalk chalk and a shared obsession with rainbow unicorns. I kissed Lily's head and told her he'd be back before dinner. Emily said she'd swing by later to say hi. Declan's doing a little thing tonight, she added. Just neighbors. Work, I said, tapping my watch. She smiled like she was wishing me well at a race. At McKenna's, the night ran smooth, fake IDs easy to spot. The worst argument, a broken heart with a volume problem. I got home at 1. The house was dark. Emily wasn't there. Text unread. I heated leftover pasta, ate it cold, because the fork was closer than the microwave, and went to sleep on the couch, boots off, but everything else on. 2 hours later, I woke to the front door whispering open and the soft stumble of someone who doesn't want the floorboards to tell on them. She slid past the couch like a cat. I kept my eyes closed and counted her steps. 12 to the stairs, 13 to the top. Bathroom door, water, silence. It's remarkable how quickly you can learn to pretend you didn't hear your life rearrange itself. The next day, I picked up Lily from office at 4. The sky was a white bowl threatening rain. I walked past Declan's house. The deck was empty, chairs upturned like horses sleeping. A red plastic cup had blown into our yard. I scooped it and tossed it in the bin because I was tired of our grass telling his stories. The Martins' door was open a crack, kid laughter spilling out like marbles. I knocked and let myself in the way parents do in neighborhoods where you've traded keys and favors. Lily, I called. Time to head out. Kiddo. In here, she shouted from down the hall. The hallway to the playroom runs past the back den. That door was partly closed, the kind of angle you make when you want privacy, but not suspicion. I wouldn't have looked if I hadn't heard Emily's laugh, the laugh reserved for when she's holding a glass of wine an audience. I stopped. The world did the thing it does. When you almost get hit by a car, everything slows, and your chest finds the rhythm of a drum circle. Through the gap, I saw Emily. Her back was to me, shoulders loose, hair in a messy top knot that took 10 tries and looked accidental. She was on the couch too close next to Declan. His hand was on her leg in the place that makes a claim without looking like one. She tilted her face toward him, then the world had arranged its angles to lead to that exact spot. I didn't rage in that moment. I went blank in a way I didn't know I could. The room zoomed like a camera, first their knees, then her hand on the cushion, then his mouth telling a story I already understood. Outside, Lily giggled and asked Ava if unicorns could eat pizza. Inside, the floor of my life shifted 1 inch to the left. I stepped back, careful with the air, like a hunter who knows sound is a species of truth. I found Lily in the playroom, hair wild, socks dirty, a sticker on her forehead that said "Great job." "Hey, bud," I said, voice perfectly normal because fatherhood trains you to carry your own tornado in a paper cup. Shoes on. "Can we play 5 more minutes?" She asked. 3, I said. "Timer's running." She hugged Ava and grabbed her little backpack that says Lily in purple glitter script. On the way out, we passed the den. The door was closed now, completely. I felt a heat in my throat and swallowed it, because rage is a tool that breaks easy when kids are around. At home, I made grilled cheese on the good skillet and cut it diagonally the way Lily likes. Emily texted at 6:12, "Running late, be back soon." I typed "we need to talk" and then deleted it. I set Lily up with crayons and Elsa stickers, told her daddy needed 2 minutes on the porch, and stepped outside where the evening smelled like rain and something I couldn't name. My phone buzzed. "Megan, you okay?" She wrote. My thumb hovered. How do you answer a question that big in a rectangle that small? I put the phone in my pocket. I watched the neighbor's maple throw shadows across our grass. I listened to Lily sing to her crayons. I waited for the door to open and the light to arrive dressed as an explanation. I wish I could tell you I had a speech prepared, something about vows and gravity and the math of effort. What I had was this: a man who'd worked 2 jobs for other people's futures, standing on a porch that needed repainting, about to ask the mother of his child why her knees were closer to a neighbor's than mine. The handle turned, the door opened, and the night, finally, told the truth. Emily came in with her keys tangled in her fingers, like she'd been twisting them the whole drive home. She gave me the smile you use on customer service reps when you're about to ask for a refund. Behind her, the house held its breath. Lily at the table with her crayons, the TV off, the porch light we keep forgetting to replace leaking a tired orange through the window. "Hey," she said, setting her purse on the island. "How was your day?" "Fine," I said, because that's the word men use when the other word is fire. "We need to talk." She looked past me to the living room. "Right now." "Lily's in 10 minutes, I said, keeping my voice even. "She's coloring. It can wait 10 minutes. Emily glanced at the clock, then at me. Her jaw flexed once, an old tell. She nodded. I sat across from her, at the kitchen table, the same spot where I've paid other people's bills and solved storms with a pencil. I didn't slam anything. I didn't raise my voice. I looked at my wife and told the truth. "I saw you," I said. Her face didn't change, or maybe it changed in a way only husbands notice, like a movie frame skipping half a beat. "Saw me what?" "With him," I answered. "At the Martins, in the den." She exhaled through her nose, slow. "We were talking. On a couch," I said. "His hand on your leg. Your face like you forgot there was a door." "It's not what you think," she said. "Which is what you say when it's exactly what I think and you're buying time." My hands were open on the table. "Then tell me what it is." She shifted gears. "I'm lonely, John," she said, as if the word itself were a whole pass. "You work all the time. It's schedules and shifts and tuition and invoices. I feel like I'm living with a calendar, not a husband. A part of me wanted to stand up and point to the ledger of my life, the extra shifts, the checks to her parents, the late nights lifting strangers so ours didn't drown. Another part of me was so tired I could have slept on the tile. "I'm doing all of that for us," I said, quiet. "For you, for Lily, for your family. I didn't ask you to be a martyr," she snapped. "I asked for a partner." "There's no passion anymore." Behind us, a crayon thumped to the floor. Lily said, "Oops," and giggled to herself. I waited until the giggle faded. "Passion isn't a starter pistol," I said. "It's a long run. Some days it's steady. Some days it's sprint. It doesn't excuse you touching the finish line with someone else." Her eyes flashed. "Don't make me the villain. You're boring, John. I'm 33, and I feel 50. There it was, the word it heard through doorways and phone calls. Boring. It slid across the table and tried to sit in my chair. "Boring keeps the lights on," I said. "Boring put your brother through college. Boring kept your parents' house out of foreclosure. Boring reads stories at bedtime and fixes the sink and comes home." She crossed her arms, took dead aim. "And boring doesn't see me." I could fought the sentence. I could have listed every time I did see her. The way she bites the corner of her lip when she's reading. How her shoulders drop when Lily falls asleep on her. How she laughs louder when she's nervous. But this wasn't about proof. This was about permission. Somewhere between yoga class and the neighbor's deck lights, Emily had given herself permission to set our vows down on the coffee table and walk away from them. I looked toward the doorway, toward the small, sturdy truth that colored at our table. "This house is a place Lily is supposed to be safe," I said. "The people we invite in should honor that. Don't drag Lily into this," she said. "She's already in it," I said. Steady. "She's always in it. She's 7. Everything we do is the weather she has to walk through." Emily stood up, arms folded so tight her knuckles went white. "You're impossible," she said, voice trembling now, not from fear, from anger. "You're making a big deal out of nothing." "It's not nothing," I said, standing to. "And I won't let you gaslight me in our kitchen." She flinched like the word hit harder than my comb did. We stared at each other across the table that has seen spaghetti, birthdays, and tax season. I thought about Declan's hand and Megan's whispers and the way silence has a shape if you look long enough. "Okay," she said finally. "Chin up. What do you want?" "A boundary," I said. "No more parties over there. No more back rooms with the door half closed. Couples therapy. Honesty." She laughed. "Therapy won't make you interesting, John." Something in me went still, the kind of still you're at the top of a ladder when the wind stops and you realize how high you've climbed. "Then say it," I said. "Say you're choosing him." She looked away. That was answer enough. I nodded once. "Put your keys down. It'll put Lily to bed. We'll talk about logistics tomorrow." "Logistics," she sneered. "Of course you want to talk logistics. Because our daughter needs a plan," I said, and left the room before my voice learned how to crack. I texted my parents after lights out. "Can you come by in the morning? Need to talk." My dad replied with a thumbs up, which is how he says we're already in the truck. I slept in Lily's room on the floor beside her bed because she asked me to stay just until the song ends, and the song ended 3 times, and then she was out, mouth open, stickers stuck to her pajama shirt in constellations. At 8 a.m., my folks knocked the way people knock when they've been your people since before you had fingerprints. Mom went straight to the coffee machine. He was a friend she hadn't seen in a while. Dad took in the room, field report, eyes moving, hands quiet, reading the weather. I told them the truth, not the tabloid version, the porch version. Short sentences, no cussing, just the facts and the feel of them. Mom's eyes filled, and she held my face between her hands like I was still 17 for a busted game. "You're not crazy," she said. "You're not boring. You're steady. There's a difference." Dad nodded once, jaw set. "You don't have to prove anything to anybody," he said. "Least of all to a man who thinks a deck light is a personality." Emily came downstairs mid-speech, hair pulled back, face set to neutral. She froze when she saw my parents. "I didn't know you were coming," she said. "Didn't need an invite," Dad answered, not unkindly. "We're here for our son And our granddaughter? Emily folded her arms. This is between us. Mom set a mug in front of her. Everything is between all of us when there's a child, she said gently. Sit. To her credit, Emily sat. To her credit. She didn't lie. She called it a mistake and a connection, and I didn't plan it, which is the trinity of adultery. She said she was unfulfilled, and Mom said, that happens, and Dad said, you don't fix it with the neighbor. I kept my eyes on the table, because sometimes dignity is just refusing to perform. At 10, Megan arrived, shoulders squared, ready for war. She hugged Emily, looked at my folks like we were a tribunal, and said, she deserves to be happy. Dad leaned back. We all do, he said. Happiness that burns your house down isn't happiness. It's a bonfire. Megan rolled her eyes. Oh please. He works 2 jobs and calls it love. She feels nothing. My mouth opened then closed. Mom put her hand on my arm. He carried all of you, she said. Voice soft but steel-lined. Feelings are weather. Character is climate. Megan shot back, you're judging. And Mom shook her head. We're grieving, she said. There's a difference. The room split along fault lines laid years ago, work versus want, duty versus dopamine. We didn't settle it that morning. You don't settle storms, you shelter through them and rebuild after. I called a lawyer that afternoon. Not a shark. A woman named Alvarez, recommended by a guy at the warehouse, who won custody when his ex got reckless with pills and promises. Alvarez listened, asked precise questions, and didn't flinch when I cried once quietly, quickly, the way men cry when they forget to hold the door on the way out. Your priorities? She asked. Lily, I said, before the question ended. Safety, stability. Good, she said. Document everything. Dates, times, witnesses. Don't confront the neighbor. Don't move out. Keep routine steady for your daughter. Well, petition for temporary orders and a custody evaluation. Do I have a shot? I asked. You have a child who needs a calm house and a parent who provides it, she said. That's more than a shot. I slept in Lily's room that week because she asked, and because the rest of the house felt like it had new edges. Emily drifted between being present and being somewhere else with her eyes open. She started staying at her sister's a couple nights to think. I cooked simple eggs, grilled chicken, pasta with Lily standing on a chair beside me, measuring salt like it was glitter and humming nonsense songs. The night the line finaled, Declan had another party. Thursday, because Thursdays are the new Fridays when your life has no corners. Bass studied. Laughter rose and fell. At 10, a police cruiser idled at the curb after a neighbor called in a noise complaint. The officer didn't get out. He rolled down his window and waited for the volume to drop. It didn't. At 10:22, Emily texted, I'm going over to ask him to turn it down. No, I wrote. Not with Lily asleep. Not with that crowd. She didn't respond. 10 minutes later, through the blinds, I saw her cut across our yard, toward the fence line glow. I felt the old heat rising, the kind that clouds judgment and makes tomorrow pay for tonight. I checked on Lily out cold, hair in a starburst on the pillow, and then called my dad. Don't go over there, he said. You go over there, you're the headline. You stay home, you're the father. I stayed home. I watched the clock. At 11:05, the music cut. At 11:12, our door opened. Emily came in, cheeks flushed, eyes bright with that neon sheen people confused for aliveness. Handled, she said, like she'd put out a kitchen fire. You can't keep choosing that house over this one, I said. She tossed her hair. You can't keep telling me what to do. I nodded. You're right. I slid a folder across the island. These are the papers I filed today. We'll do this with lawyers and schedules and a parenting plan that keeps Lily safe. She stared at the folder like it might bite. You're unbelievable. I'm unbelievably done, I said. She grabbed the folder, flipped it open, slammed it shut. Megan was right, she said. You're all control. I'm all structure, I said. Structure is the thing bridges and childhoods are made of. She laughed once, loud, mean. You're so boring. I let the word hit the floor and stay there. Go sleep at Megan's, I said. Well, alternate nights this week, until we have a judge's order. Lily stays here. You don't decide that, she said. The court does, I answered, and they're going to care about the police calls and the witnesses and the parties and the substances. Her eyes thinned. You've been collecting. I've been protecting, I said. There's a difference. She left at midnight with a bag and fury. The silence that followed tasted like air for a storm, heavy, damp, clean. The families chose sides the way families do when love goes to litigation. My parents showed up with casseroles and yard tools, cutting the grass and fixing the gate latch that screamed, because quiet helps kids sleep. They took Lily to the library and the park and taught her to play go fish like it was the World Series. My dad built a little shelf for her stuffed animals and labeled it Lily's Zoo in block letters that looked like his handwriting did when I was 7. Megan drove Emily to consultations and posted quotes about healing on Instagram. She stopped waving from her car. She told mutual friends that I was controlling and emotionally stingy. The friends who know me texted to check in. The ones who don't send emojis. Emily's parents didn't call. Her mother mailed Lily a dress with unicorns. Her father mailed me nothing. Declan stopped waving, too. He became a shadow in a bright house. 2 weeks later, a for-rent sign went up in his yard. Turns out committees and police reports aren't a vibe. The custody evaluation process felt like a colonoscopy of your life. Home visits, interviews, references. A therapist came by on a Tuesday afternoon and sat cross-legged on the floor building blocks with Lily while asking me questions about routines, discipline, and whether I believed her mother loved her. Yes, I said, because truth doesn't stop being truth when people hurt you. I believe Emily loves Lily. Do you believe the neighbor's environment is safe for a child? The therapist asked. No, I said. Not at 2 in the morning. Not with strangers and bottles and smoke. She nodded, wrote notes, asked Lily who makes her feel safe. Daddy, Lily said, placing a block on the tower without looking up. And Grandma. And Mommy when she's not at the party. We didn't rehearse that. Kids don't rehearse the weather. By the time we reached the first hearing, my anger had cooled into resolve. I wore the good shirt. I brought a folder of documents and a quiet I had to build from scratch. Emily sat on her side with Megan behind her like a bodyguard made of sisterhood. Our lawyers did the talking. Alvarez was clinical and kind. Emily's lawyer tried to make me the warden of a joyless house. Alvarez didn't bite. The judge was a woman with grey hair pulled into a no-nonsense ponytail and a look that said she'd seen every version of our story. She listened. She asked about school mornings and bedtimes and medication for Lily's seasonal asthma. She asked about police calls and neighbors and who lives within 10 feet of the back fence. She asked me what I wanted. A stable home, I said. Routine. Safety. Time with both parents if it's safe. She asked Emily what she wanted. To feel alive, Emily said. Then caught herself. I mean shared custody. I love my daughter. The judge nodded, made notes, looked up. This court orders temporary primary physical custody to the father pending full evaluation, she said. Mother to have supervised visitation at her sister's home for the next 8 weeks. No overnights. No exposure to neighbor residences where prior incidents occurred. Both parties to refrain from disparaging the other in the child's presence. Her gavel didn't bang, her voice did. Emily's face went white, then red. Megan squeezed her hand and shot me a look like lasers lived behind her eyes. I didn't gloat. You don't celebrate in a room like that. You nod, you sign. You go home and make a grilled cheese cut diagonally, because routine is how you tell a child the world still works. That night, Lily fell asleep on my chest during a movie we didn't finish. I carried her to bed and tucked the blanket under her chin the way my mom used to do on nights when the boiler clicked like a metronome. I stood in the doorway longer than usual, listening to the soft, even breath of a small person who trusts me with the weather. Downstairs, I sat at the table where this part started and made 2 lists. Things I can control, things I can't. Under the first, I wrote house, meals, schedule, patients, lawyer, job search. Under the second, I wrote Emily's choices, Megan's opinions, the past. The lists didn't fix me. They reminded me that I wasn't broken. I was building. When my phone buzzed with a text from Emily, "I want to see Lily tomorrow. Can we do 3? I answered, "Yes, at Megan's. I'll bring her at 3 and pick her up at 5. We'll figure the rest out as we go. As we go. Not as we wish. Not as we fear. As we go." I rinsed the skillet, wiped the counter, set the coffee for morning. The house settled around me like a body exhaling. I went to the porch, where the paint still needs doing, and sat on the top step. The neighborhood was quiet. Even the maple nodded. The weeks between temporary custody and the final hearing stretched like scaffolding, every joint tight, every step measured. I lived by alarms, school mornings at 7:15, inhaler check before recess, bedtime stories by 8:30. I kept notes for the court the way some men keep journals, meals eaten, homework done, playdates supervised. It wasn't paranoia. It was proof. Proof that the house I ran was steady. Proof that the daughter I raised was safe. Lily adjusted faster than I did. Kids are better architects of resilience. The first week, she asked why Mommy didn't tuck her in. I told her Mommy loved her, but needed to see her at Megan's right now. By week 3, she stopped asking. Instead, she started telling me about her day while I cooked math problems, playground spats, the songs she liked best in music class. She learned to crack eggs for Saturday pancakes without breaking the yolk. She learned my trick for folding laundry into thirds. She leaned into the structure like a swing leans into its chains. Emily drifted. At visits, she showed up with gifts: a new doll, sparkly shoes, but forgot the details, like Lily's allergy to strawberries. Megan hovered, sharp-eyed, reporting back to the court-appointed supervisor if I sighed aloud. It hurt, but I learned to let it roll off. The supervisor's note spoke louder than my pride. Father provides meals on time. Father ensures homework completion. Child appears bonded and comfortable. Those words became bricks under my feet. The final hearing landed in early fall. The courthouse smelled like polished wood and paper. I wore the same white shirt from the first hearing, pressed by my mom. Emily wore black, Megan beside her like armor. Our lawyers spoke. The judge listened. The custody evaluator testified, describing Lily as thriving in her father's structured environment. She mentioned the parties, the police visits, the late nights. Emily's lawyer tried to frame me as rigid, a Manta focused on rules to provide joy. The evaluator shook her head. Structure and love are not opposites, she said. In this case, they are the same. When the judge awarded me full custody, with Emily on visitation until further review, my chest filled with both relief and ache. Relief because Lily would sleep under my roof. Ache because divorce is not a win. It's a survival. Emily cried silent tears at the table. I didn't cheer. I didn't smirk. I signed the papers, shook Alvarez's hand, and walked out with my daughter's future tied to mine more firmly than ever. The house came next. A 2-bedroom ranch on the edge of town, painted yellow with shutters that needed scraping. The yard was small, but it had an oak tree strong enough to hold a swing. My dad helped me fix the plumbing. My mom filled the pantry like it was Thanksgiving. Lily chose the pink room with the closet just big enough for a dress-up box. I let her tape unicorn posters to the wall, even though the paint peeled when we pulled the tape back. It's our house, she said the first night, bouncing on her new twin bed. Our. I clung to that word like it was gospel. Work followed. I left the warehouse and landed a steady job with the county transit service, thanks to a connection Alvarez had with a city council member. Driving shuttle routes between downtown and the university wasn't glamorous, but it came with benefits, regular hours, and weekends mostly free. No more bouncing drunks at 2 a.m. No more double shifts that left me too tired to notice bedtime stories. For the first time in years, I wasn't just carrying, I was walking upright. The nights grew quieter in that little house. After Lily went to bed, I'd sit at the kitchen table with lesson plans, budgeting courses, small business seminars online, not because I wanted revenge success, but because I wanted to be ready for whatever came next. Some nights I just sat in the silence, the hum of the fridge and the ticking of the wall clock the only reminders that time still moved. I'd sip cheap coffee and let myself breathe. Slowly, I realized I was no longer just a man, patching holes in a sinking ship. I was a builder again. Builder of mornings that began with cereal and giggles, of evenings that ended with bedtime prayers, of a life that wasn't shiny but was solid. One Friday night, Lily drew a picture of our house at school. Yellow walls, oak tree, swing, to stick figures me with big square shoulders, her with a bow in her hair. The teacher handed it to me at pickup. She said she wanted to show where she feels safe. The teacher said with a smile. I put it on the fridge. That drawing was worth more than any paycheck, more than any title. It was the blueprint of why I carried the load in the first place. 2 years rolled by, not like a sprint, but like laying brick one steady row on top of another. The house settled around us the way a body settles into muscle after exercise. The paint still peeled in places. The shutters still groaned when wind caught them, but it was ours. Ours in a way that meant Lily's backpack dropped by the front door after school, shoes kicked off sideways, crayons spilling across the coffee table. The mess wasn't stress anymore, it was proof of life. Routine became a kind of hymn. Wake-ups at 7 with cereal bowls clinking. School drop-offs in the county shuttle on mornings when the route matched her schedule. Afternoons of homework spread across the kitchen table while I cook spaghetti on Mondays, chicken tacos on Wednesdays, pancakes for dinner once a month, just to keep joy alive. Bedtime meant books, prayers, and sometimes questions bigger than I was ready for. Daddy, Lily asked one night, hair still damp from a bath, why don't you and Mommy live together anymore? I paused, tucking her blanket. Because sometimes grown-ups forget how to be kind to each other. But we both love you more than anything. That never changes. She thought about it, nodded, and hugged me. Kids don't need the courtroom details. They just need the reassurance that the foundation won't crack beneath their feet. Emily drifted in and out. Visitation stabilized supervised at first, then unsupervised weekends after she passed the court's requirements. She tried, in her way, to piece herself back. I didn't stop her, but I stopped waiting for her to. The neighbor moved out long ago. The parties ended. The silence of our street at night felt like justice, not loud, not vengeful, just a steady quiet. Work was steady too. The shuttle job turned into a supervisor role after 18 months scheduling drivers, keeping routes efficient. It wasn't Wall Street, but it paid the mortgage and left me home for dinner. I started lifting weights again at the rec center, pounding out old frustration on iron. I ran local trails on weekends, lungs burning in the cool Ohio air. Slowly, I felt the man inside me stand up taller than he had in years. The loneliness didn't disappear overnight. Some nights, after Lily was asleep and the house went still, the ache sat heavy. The ghost of what I thought marriage would be. The quiet of a bed too big for one. But I learned something in that quiet. Loneliness isn't always a punishment. Sometimes it's space. Space to heal. Space to find out who you are when nobody's demanding you carry more than your share. Friends started noticing. At the rec center, one of the guys said, "Man, you look 10 years younger." At work, my boss told me, "You're steady, John." That's rare. Even Lily noticed. "You laugh more now," she said one evening while we were roasting marshmallows in the backyard. Like real laughs. Out of the mouths of kids, always the truest mirrors. I didn't chase dating apps or late night bars. I figured if love came again, it'd come in the quiet, like rain on the roof when you're not listening for it. Until then, my hands were full in the best way with raising a daughter who believed in unicorns and fairness, and who, one day, would grow up knowing her dad never quit on her. One Saturday afternoon, I was fixing the swing on the oak when Lily ran out with a flyer from school. "Daddy, bring your parent to class day. Can you come?" I wiped sweat off my forehead, smiled. Wouldn't miss it. When I showed up a week later, sitting in her classroom's tiny chair, while she introduced me as my dad, who drives buses and makes the best pancakes, something in me broke and healed at the same time. The other parents might have had bigger houses, flashier jobs, shinier rings, but my daughter looked at me like I was the safest place in the room. That's when it clicked. Family isn't about the house you buy, the vacations you afford, or the image you keep polished for the world. Family is where a little girl can draw a picture of home, tape it to the fridge, and know the man who tucks her in will still be there in the morning. I used to think survival was enough: pay the bills, keep the lights on, drag the wagon another mile. But survival is the floor, not the ceiling. The ceiling is joy. The ceiling is freedom. The ceiling is laughing in your own kitchen with your kid eating pancakes at 8 p.m. on a school night, because rules can bend when love is strong enough. So when people ask how I did it, how I carried through betrayal, divorce, custody battles, and came out steadier, I don't give them speeches. I just say this: I stopped living to prove myself to people who left. I started living for the one person who stayed. And then I point to the fridge, where a crayon drawing of a yellow house with an oak tree and two stick figures still hangs, curling at the edges, but truer than any diploma, a bank account balance if ever owned. Because that picture isn't survival, it's everything after. Thank you for listening my story. If you want more raw, real, and gripping stories like this, subscribe to the End Stories channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.